What would you think if I told you that something as common as simple kitchen eggs could make your peach tree load up with fruit like you've never seen before? I'm not talking about expensive fertilizers or hard-to-get chemicals. I'm talking about simple eggs that you probably already have in your house right now. Today, I am going to show you exactly, step by step, what you need to do so that your peach tree produces much more. I suggest you stay until the end because I am going to reveal a small additional ingredient that almost no one mentions, and that must be combined with the eggs to unleash this massive production of peaches. Now, let's begin. A few years ago, I met a man who tended a small orchard behind his house. It was one of those simple gardens that often go unnoticed by people, but which actually hide very interesting stories. At first glance, it was nothing very spectacular. Just a few fruit trees, a couple of orange trees, an apple tree, and an old peach tree that seemed to be living its last days. The leaves were dull, it had some dry branches, and most people would have sworn that the tree was beyond saving. It looked like one of those trees that stays standing out of pure habit, as if time had completely forgotten about it. But something very curious happened. 2 weeks after visiting it for the first time, I passed by his orchard again, and the tree looked completely different. The leaves had much more color, new shoots were appearing everywhere, and the tree radiated an energy that wasn't there before. It was as if someone had rekindled the spark of life inside that peach tree. The first thing that crossed my mind was that he had used some very strong fertilizer, or a special laboratory product. But when I asked him what he had done, he laughed and told me something I still remember clearly. He said, "I didn't do anything complicated. I just gave back to the earth what the tree was asking for." And that phrase made me reflect a lot, because we often believe that a tree dies from lack of water, or simply because we have bad luck. But the reality is much simpler than we imagine. Most fruit trees that weaken are not sick, but malnourished. The soil loses its minerals over the years, rains wash them away slowly, and constant irrigation ends up diluting them. The tree remains alive, but it grows in increasingly poor soil and gradually loses its strength. The secret of everything lies in this detail. Before continuing, I want to ask you something out of pure curiosity. Where is your peach tree located? Is it planted directly in the ground of your garden? Is it perhaps growing in a pot on a patio? Or do you not have one yet, but dream of having one soon? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know where those trees are growing. There are people who grow in very small patios, others on large plots of land, and also those who start with a simple pot on a balcony. And the interesting thing is that everyone, regardless of the available space, can apply these little tricks to significantly improve the health of their plants. Now, continuing with the topic of the peach tree, there are also many cases in which trees grow strongly, put out new leaves every year, and even bloom a little in spring. But then most of those flowers fall off, or never become real fruits. It is a fairly common situation, and many people get frustrated seeing this repeat season after season. Many think it is due to a lack of water. Others believe the tree needs more generic fertilizer. Some even think they just had bad luck that season. But often the problem is simpler than it seems. The tree does not have a sufficient amount of a key nutrient to form and sustain the fruit. That very important nutrient is calcium. Calcium is fundamental for the structure of plants. It helps strengthen tissues, form much more resistant cells, and, something very important in fruit trees, it helps the fruit set and stay firm on the tree instead of falling off when it is still small. When a peach tree has enough calcium available, the plant tissues become firmer. The flowers are much more likely to turn into fruits, and the tree can better support the weight of its own production. On the contrary, when a peach tree has little calcium available, it can grow well and have beautiful leaves, but it struggles to sustain the fruits. And often that detail goes completely unnoticed by the person caring for the tree. And this is where something curious comes in, something that almost everyone has in their homes: eggs. But before revealing exactly how to use them, I want to tell you something that will surely make you smile. When people hear about eggs and plants, many might imagine someone breaking an egg directly into the ground, and that's it. In fact, you might be thinking right now that I'm going to tell you to break 2 or 3 eggs and put them at the base of the tree, but that's not the case. The secret is not inside the egg, but in the shell. Eggshells are largely composed of calcium carbonate, a natural source of calcium that can immensely help fruit trees. But here comes the important detail. If you simply throw the whole shell on the ground, the absorption process is very slow. It can take a long time to decompose and release that calcium. Sometimes, even months pass before the soil can truly take advantage of that mineral. That's why there is a much more effective way to use it, a way that speeds up the process and allows the tree to benefit from that nutrient much faster. And that is what I am going to teach you next. If you like learning these little gardening secrets that completely change a tree's production, hit the like button so more people can discover these practical and natural solutions for their plants. Now let's get to the important part. What we are going to prepare is a small homemade fertilizer rich in calcium using eggshells. For the mixture, you will need the shells of approximately 5 eggs. That amount is perfect for preparing a dose that works well on a medium-sized peach tree. When you use eggs in the kitchen, always remember to save the shells. Once you have the shells, wash them lightly to remove any residue and let them dry for at least 2 days. It is important that they are clean to avoid bad odors or remains that could attract unwanted insects. Once dry, grind them as finely as possible. You can do it with a blender, a mortar, or even by crushing them inside a bag with the help of a rolling pin or a bottle. The finer they are, the better. When the shells turn into a very fine powder, their contact surface increases, and the soil can take advantage of the calcium they contain much faster. That shell powder is a natural source of calcium for the soil, but here comes the detail I mentioned a moment ago, that extra ingredient that changes everything. We are not going to use the shells alone. Instead, we are going to combine them with a very common ingredient that is probably also in your kitchen. Vinegar. Yes, white vinegar or apple cider vinegar. When vinegar comes into contact with the eggshell, a small natural chemical reaction occurs that helps release the calcium from the shell, transforming it into a substance that is much easier for plants to absorb. It's as if you were waking up that calcium that was trapped in the structure of the shell. That reaction slowly transforms the calcium carbonate into a form more available to the soil. And that is why this mixture works much better than simply throwing the shells in the garden. The preparation is very simple. Place the eggshell powder in a container and add approximately 1 cup of vinegar. When doing this, you will notice that the mixture reacts and bubbles. That is completely normal. It is the effect of the calcium being released. Let it rest for 1 or 2 days. During that time, the process continues slowly, and the mixture becomes increasingly rich in available calcium. Then transfer the solution to a larger container. Add 1 liter of water and mix well. And now you have a homemade liquid concentrate rich in calcium, ready to use. But pay attention, because you must dilute this solution correctly to apply it to the tree. If your peach tree is planted in the ground, you can dilute that concentrate in about 5 liters of water before applying it around the tree. And if it is in a pot, use only half the dilution, that is, about 3 liters approximately. This fertilizer is simple, cheap, and uses something that would normally end up in the trash. Furthermore, it is a very intelligent way to recycle kitchen waste and transform it into something useful for your plants. Sometimes the best results in gardening come precisely from these small gestures, repeated with patience. If you are here learning and wanting to care for your tree with love, do something more with those hands. Subscribe for free to this channel. That way you help me continue sharing real gardening knowledge explained in a simple way. However, the process does not end here. What comes next is as important as the mixture itself. I am referring to how to apply it. First, lightly water the soil with clean water. Moist soil absorbs nutrients much better. Then, pour the solution around the perimeter of the tree, forming a circle around the area where the canopy ends. Avoid applying it right against the trunk, as the roots that actually absorb nutrients are usually further away, just below the area where the branches end. That area is where the tree has the greatest absorption activity. In this way, the tree will be able to take much better advantage of that calcium. Now comes something interesting. During the first few days, you probably won't notice anything spectacular, and that is completely normal. But after a few weeks, small changes begin to appear. New leaves usually look firmer, the tree begins to grow with more vigor, and when the flowering season arrives, more flowers often appear than usual. Those flowers are the beginning of future peaches. If the tree has the right nutrients at that time, the chances of those flowers turning into fruits increase considerably. Here comes another detail that can further improve the result. I promised you at the beginning that in addition to the main ingredient, there was a small enhancer. After applying the mixture of eggshell calcium and vinegar, you can add a thin layer of organic matter around the tree. It can be homemade compost, worm humus, or even crushed dry leaf remains. This improves soil life. A living soil helps nutrients remain available for longer and helps roots function better. It's like creating a small ecosystem that favors the tree. Now I want to ask you something. What do you like to grow most at home? Fruit trees like peach trees, tomatoes, aromatic herbs, or maybe you are starting your small garden right now? Let me know in the comments because it is always interesting to know what is growing in every corner. And before finishing, there is something very important you should know. Some common errors can ruin this process without you realizing it. First error, using too much undiluted vinegar. Vinegar is useful in small quantities, but in excess, it can alter the balance of the soil. Second error, applying the mixture too frequently. Once or twice during the season is usually enough. Third error, applying it when the tree is completely dormant in winter. Ideally, do it when the tree begins to wake up and prepares to grow. The fourth error is pouring the mixture right against the trunk. Remember that the roots that actually absorb nutrients are further from the center. And the fifth error, forgetting something fundamental for any fruit tree, light. A peach tree needs many hours of direct sun to produce quality fruits. You can give it good nutrients and care for the soil, but if the tree lives in constant shade, production will always be limited. When you combine good light, healthy soil, and balanced nutrients, the result can be surprising. A peach tree full of flowers, then full of small fruits, and finally, branches loaded with ripe peaches ready to harvest. All thanks to small changes and a better understanding of what your tree needs. If this video helped you see your peach tree in a different way, subscribe to the channel for free. Here we want to form a community of people who enjoy watching their plants grow, learning something new, and sharing what they discover. The idea of this channel is to share simple, real, and easy-to-apply tricks so that anyone can improve their garden. It doesn't matter if you have a large plot of land, a small patio, or just a few pots. Often, The biggest changes in a garden come from small details that almost no one explains. Here we are discovering those details step by step. And before we say goodbye, I leave you with one last question. Had you ever thought that something as simple as an eggshell could help your tree produce more fruit? Let me know in the comments, because often the best gardening secrets are hidden in the simplest things in our own home. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. If this guide on how to transform your kitchen waste into an abundant harvest has changed your perspective on gardening, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the natural secrets that time and industry have tried to hide. Cultivate your knowledge and plant a greener future. The next treasure for your garden will be revealed very soon.